The rear brakes on the W204 are a floating caliper. This means the caliper is attached to the mount by sliding bolts and has only one piston on one side of the caliper, as indicated by the red arrow. Pull the wear sensor straight out from the mount on the caliper, red arrow, and then remove it from the pad, yellow arrow. You should be able to pull it from the pad by hand, but if it is stuck, use a set of small needle nose pliers to remove it, using care if you are planning on reusing the sensor. If you are changing your pads before the wear sensor has activated, there is no reason why you cannot reuse it. But if it has worn down, you should replace it. While it is not necessary to remove the wear sensor housing from the caliper, I like to use an E10 torque to remove the housing and get it out of the way. Use a set of pliers and pry the retaining spring out from the front of the caliper, red arrow. Use care when removing the spring, as it is under some tension, and as always, you should be wearing eye protection. Remove the two protective caps from the slide bolts and use a 7mm Allen to remove the bolts. These are the bolts that the caliper slides on, red arrow. They should be smooth and free of any corrosion. Clean up the bolts with a little emery paper and lubricate them before reinstalling. Depending on how worn your rotors and pads are, you will need to compress the piston back into the caliper. Use a large flathead screwdriver and place it between the caliper and the rotor and push the caliper outwards, which will force the piston back in. Never place the screwdriver around the piston, as you can damage it or the rubber boot. While you are pushing the piston back in, you will be forcing brake fluid back into the system and up into the reservoir. Make sure to check the fluid level in the reservoir as you do this. Be prepared to remove some fluid as needed. Now you can remove the caliper from the mount. Be prepared to hang the caliper or place it on something at the height that it will not put any stress on the brake hose or line. Never let the caliper hang from the brake line. You will need to push the piston all the way back into the caliper to install the new pads. Before you remove the old pad, use a large C-clamp and compress the piston all the way in. Remember to check the fluid level in the reservoir. The pad on the piston side will come with a metal clip that holds it in the position in the caliper and piston. Pull the old pad out and press the new pad in. The pads will be marked F for front and R and L for right and left. The outside pad will come with an anti-squeal pad on the back. This is just a sticky material that helps hold the pad in place and prevents squeals. Push the old pad off the caliper, clean up any residue from the old backing, and install the new pad. Installation is the reverse of removal. Once everything is back together, pump the brake pedal a few times to move the pads into position against the rotor. Always follow the break-in instructions that come with your new pads. New pads need to be broken in properly and will have diminished braking capabilities until they are. Thanks for watching. Click here to view the original article along with hundreds of other DIY content for your car.